Like, can't escape it. It's all the way up. So there's something about the way you have it set. Double check it. The microphone. It was fine when I left it there. Double check the microphone. Nothing. Just bring it up until it taps. I'm max.
Because every time he turns it.
He had the. Would you like me to do it? Is the antenna on? If the antenna's not on, that's not. Oh, I didn't like that. Yeah.
Testing. Better turn it down.
Yeah, I think so, huh?
It's a miracle. It works.
It turns off.
Oh, I didn't turn it off. It's because there's no antenna on that thing, so it's not picking up the signal. It's a very interesting process of learning, but because last week it worked fine, all without any antennas.
I learned that one day. Feedback on
Yeah. Okay. How? Well, testing 1, 2. Am I really here? Yes. Good morning to all you new thoughters. My name is Stephen Goss. I'm just a facilitator for today. And I'm going to bring up this little cheat sheet. Our guest speaker today is Lynda Boozer, and she'll be sharing with us the topic of the fullness of life, the path to clear joy. And our musician today was going to be Darby Partner, but she seems to be a midwife delivering a baby right now. So we're blessed to have Mahina and Randy to fill in. We really appreciate them coming at the last minute. And I love the mellow Hawaiian sounds, and I think we all need calming down right now, and the whole world could use some good calming down. This is a great time to come together to remind each other that the divine order is in charge, regardless of how things might look out there. Now we're going to start with a reading from The Science of Mind by Tiara, and I'll just hand her the mic. Would you rather have it on the stand?
Mahalo, aloha kakayaka. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for coming to Sound Healing this morning and for all of you being here. Reading from here, be curious rather than certain. Our persistence in examining the tensions within diversity encourages growth toward our common goal. All the power in the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as though it were true. As the universe is run by an infinite mind, so our life is controlled by our thinking. Ignorance of this keeps us in bondage. Knowledge will free us. Dividing humans by our attributes and characteristics has always been a controversial tendency. And we're just talking about politics, so that immediately comes to my mind when I see that. Whether dividing by the construct of race, gender, religion, social status, or some other artificial boundary, we find ourselves left with a sense of brokenness. You are this, I am that. They are that, we are this. Yes, there are discernible differences among humans, each one a unique iteration of the divine pattern. The trouble is when we name them and make them matter and assign them value. My skin is brown, my gender is female, my partner is female, and I study religious science. These are facts that are interesting but not definitive. Let's explore why who I am causes tension for someone else. Why do my characteristics being different from yours cause tension between us? Being curious rather than certain can open us up to so many possibilities. Let's forget what we think we know. Let's have the mind of the child. Let's truly know each other and be free of the ignorance of any kind of assumed superiority. So, our affirmation today is I am willing to examine the tension around diversity and be part of the healing. Okay, so please repeat after me. I am willing to examine the tension around diversity and be part of the healing. So, really feel into that, breathe into that. Mahalo.
Thank you, fellow board member Tiara. Brand new. So talk about breathing into that now. We're going to take a little time to practice breathing, mindfulness / meditation, uh, prayer, all the same. The dictionary defines the word grievance as being distress, unfair treatment that justifies thoughts of resentment and resistance. So in this mindfulness practice we're going to do right now, let's practice giving up all our grievances. Like, I'm no longer upset by what I think isn't right. So I would like to share a couple of meditative warm-up quotes from Rumi to kind of set up a meditative space. Number one, the truth is so out in the open that it seems to be hidden. Listen, O drop, give yourself up without regret, and in exchange, gain the ocean. As you start to walk on the way appears. Look past your thoughts so you may drink the pure nectar of this moment. Now, looking past all our thoughts, let's try to follow the breath in and out for just a moment. Well, welcome back to our divine play called New Thought. Lately, I've been really practicing mindfulness a lot lately myself, but mostly I ended up just being mindful of who's irritating me. That's kind of reminds me of, you remember the comedian Rodney Dangerfield? One more. New Thought is great. I got rid of all my problems. Now I just have lessons and expensive reoccurring lessons. No more problems. Now if I could cajole our musicians to play us another tune, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Randy and Mahina.
Okay. All right. I'm going to revisit a couple of older songs here. You know the chorus? Jump right in. Yesterday a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. There you go. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the boy moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Words like when you're older must appease him, and promises of someday make up his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. 16 springs, 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. Ooh, you tell him, take your time. It won't be long now. I have 3 sons. Do you drag your feet just to slow those circles down? Everybody. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. The years spin by, now the boy is 20, 30, 40, 50. His dreams have lost a lot of grandeur, coming true. Well, there'll be new dreams, there'll be better dreams, there'll be plenty of new dreams before that last revolving year is through. Last round, gang. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the pain painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game. We all go round and round and round in the circle game. Thank you.
Well, that was great and felt quite uplifting. So, are there any people here for the first time today? I looked around, I haven't really seen anybody. If you are here for the first time, would you raise your hand so we could welcome you? Well, then we welcome all you old regulars, so, and all the people watching online and the young ones. I can use the word old. It's all right because, because I'm old. So, but now about New Thought. What does New Thought stand for? I think the philosophy gives us more conscious control of our thoughts and our thinking, and change our thinking. It will change the attitude, which will change our minds, which can change our life. Good thinking leads to a good life. Whatever kind of good thinking purifies you is the right path to be on. And it doesn't have to be New Thought. It just has to lead to a better thinking. So we don't try to define what your path should be. This is a sanctuary of aloha for all the different paths. Simply said, I believe New Thought supports the goal of finding out who and what we really are. Who is your real self? We started out as a science of mind, religious science church, and we still have a lot of the philosophy, and it does all relate to changing your thinking, change your mind. That was a positive viewpoint of positive thinking and New Thought, but more of the Rodney Dangerfield, what would he have to say about positive thinking? Because life's not fair. It's not my fault. It's hard to have a satisfied mind. For instance, I'm single and I have a partner, but I have been feeling lonely lately. Even the fire ants and the mosquitoes are ignoring me. So, wow, I'm glad that worked a little bit. That really sucks. I trust the universe completely, except when it disagrees with me. I wanted to manifest a new car, but the universe sent me a bus pass. Man, life sucks. I'm a big fan of the Course in Miracles. A lot of you know I like the Course in Miracles. So I asked the Holy Spirit for guidance because of noisy neighbors, and Holy Spirit just suggested, get some earplugs. There you have it. So now we're going to take the time for a question for the audience that Lynda's going to share with you.
Good morning, everybody. My question is, we're going to be talking about clear joy and a path to full living. And my question is, where and if you feel joy, and I don't want to assume that you do, that's fully okay as well. If you feel joy at this moment, where do you feel it in your body? So take a moment before people start answering so that you're not asking that of yourself while someone else is speaking, so you can be present to everyone. And you also can pass.
And try to keep it to a couple of sentences. But I'll go first. I just feel joyful about feeling connected to everything, and I seem to feel it mostly in the solar plexus.
I'm Shana. I hadn't thought of that before, so I don't have an answer.
Hey, I'm Alicia. I feel it mostly in my solar plexus and my heart, the lower heart.
I'm Pasha, and I feel it in my heart.
I'm Lo Paki. I feel it everywhere.
I'm Kathy. I also feel it everywhere.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eileen, and I feel it in my heart. And then my body will feel like it's floating.
Aloha, I'm Tiare. Of course, I feel it in the heart, radiating down my arms into my fingers, especially playing bowls this morning and hugging everybody. So, yeah.
I'm Nancy, and I feel it in my heart.
I am Veronique, and I feel it in my heart. And it's lovely to feel it radiate out.
Good morning, I'm Leah, and I definitely feel it in my heart and my whole chest cavity. And then depending on the level of joy, it expands into my whole beingness.
Deanna, my heart.
I'm Shelva, and joy that I woke up to this beautiful day.
I'm Jeanette, and I feel it in my heart chakra.
I'm Paul. I feel it in my heart. It comes from my eyes.
Aloha, I'm Donna Maria, and I feel joy radiating from my heart all everywhere.
You guys want to go?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Erin, and I feel it in the little hairs on my ears.
I'm Kathy, and I feel it in my body, heart, mind, and soul.
I'm Don, and I feel it pretty much everywhere, really, but it travels around my body.
Yeah, Kaimana, like Don, I like many people, I feel it in my heart, and I really feel it radiate out my back, and it'll just fill me with like a waterfall of tingle or light or something when it really comes on.
Nance, down in my heart.
I'm Lloyd. I feel it in my upper chakras.
I'm Candy. My heart and radiating out into my aura.
I'm Jan, and I feel it in my chest.
Good morning. My name is Reagan, and among other things, I feel it in my eyes.
I'm Barca, and I guess it depends on the type of joy. Like I feel a joy of ice cream with my tongue, but some parts don't really get much joy, like my elbows and knees. I don't really think they ever really have the joy.
Aloha, good morning, Jamie. I feel joy in my heart and then down to my opu.
Aloha, I'm Randy, and I feel it as a musician in my heart going out through my arms into my hands today.
Aloha, I'm Mahina. Kind of feel it all over and share it with a smile and a song.
Okay, give us another song. You need to go.
Okay. I'm feeling my children today. So I wrote this song a while ago. Well, my son's almost 50, so a little while ago. Anyway, it'll tell about itself. I don't think so. I need to say anything more. It's been a while, so he's 50. It's been a while since I've sang it, but oh well. Here we go. How do I talk to you, my son? Who am I to tell you how it's done? It's not like my life's been a perfect one, so tell me, how do I talk to you, my son? How do I give you what I've learned of love's bright candle by being burned? The things that I've gotten, the things I've spurned, tell me, how do I give you what I've learned? How do I tell you to look inside? Youth is so vital, so full of pride, filled with the passions you cannot hide. How do I tell you to look inside? The answers are there if your heart is true, but I can't tell you what to do. Life's lessons have to be learned by you, but the answers are there if your heart is true. So tell me, how do I talk to you, my son? Who am I to tell you how it's done? It's not like my life's been a perfect one, so tell me, how do I talk to you, my son? That was how I talked to him.
That was a great song, great lyrics. Thank you. It kind of reminds me of like when I think of my imperfection, I'm imperfect, but after coming to New Thought, I know that at least I'm perfectly imperfect. But I think that's some kind of improvement. I'm not sure. Time for miracles and ordinaries. This is when we get an opportunity to share the happy, unexpected, sort of serendipitous lives. Things just happen. Wow. And those magic moments. So if there's anybody out there who'd like to share, come on up.
Got it. All right. Well, I'm Lloyd for the This is, let's say, an update on the miracle of Tony and Vaughn, Tony and Palmer Vaughn. I just talked to Tony this morning, and she, is first of all thankful for all the thoughts and prayers that everyone has given to both of them, and she can feel the energy. And in Palmer's case, he's gotten successfully through this round of chemotherapy, and now he's in a monitoring stage, I guess, which will last for a couple of weeks. The sort of the medical storm that he was having seems to be quieting down. He doesn't have to do dialysis. Now the monitoring, still in the hospital because he's in a very delicate condition, will go on for a couple of weeks. And there's so many, what if, or if this happens, then that. So if the monitoring shows that all is well, he can be released from the hospital, at which point he's definitely not done with all of this. And probably at that point, they will have to relocate to Florida where there's family and medical care that would be suitable for what he's dealing with. So anyway, all is as good as could be hoped for at this point in time. And again, Tony wants to say thanks to everybody who's been thinking about them.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you for the update.
He's shrinking.
I actually wish I was taller, but was anybody else want to share? Bring it down.
I got to be with the 8th graders last week for movement in games class. And so they chose to do badminton and archery. The boys were new to having their group do this sort of thing. And I was so impressed with their communication skills. They weren't so sweet to each other. No, they're 8th graders. However, the way that they worked together and talked about what needed to happen and how to maybe inform kids that didn't know the rules, it was so advanced and just really, really heartwarming. And this is the direction that I see humanity moving, in a way that's open and communicative without being critical, but still being honest and authentic.
I'll just come from here. I'll just, why I'm so into my kids and everything. My grandson was born last night. Keikoali. Things are going well. He will be a special needs child. He has a heart thing, so he goes into surgery tomorrow morning for his first surgery and then another one. But other than that, he seems to be healthy and kicking, and the angst is gone. It feels good. It feels like it's going to be okay, So anybody got an excess prayer to spare, drop it on this little guy, Keikoali. But so that's my miracle. He's here. Mahalo.
Anybody else? Here comes Jamie.
Yeah. So it was Saturday yesterday, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do for lay? And I also was on Oahu, and I reached out to Tony and Palmer. I said, hey, I'm in town. I can come visit. And they said, oh, that's so sweet. And but Palmer's not quite out of the woods yet, and his immune system. So I said, well, can we do prayers? And they welcome lots of prayers from everybody, whoever feels called to pray. So anyway, got back, And our usual crown flowers come from Jan and Reagan's. And I was with Dinah on Friday, and I talked to the crown, and I was looking at it, and it's like, I need to recover. And because it's also, they support the Hawaiian monarch. Like from little tiny caterpillar, they munch, 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 and then they make a chrysalis, and then they turn butterfly. So I'm like, oh, what do I do? And then I thought, oh, Palmer's always said our door is open. If there's flowers, come get them. So I text Tony. I said, I know a lot is going on. Would it be okay if I come and get flowers? And they said, yes, please. And so then we got crown flower lay today. So thank you, Tony. Thank you, Palmer, for the crown flowers.
That's great. Any more? Yeah.
Aloha. I'm Leah. Serendipity. Who here feels like serendipity moments are miracles? Right? I think you all do. And for me, knowing that, learning that thoughts are things, and being a photographer, I used to think, well, light is the fastest stuff in the universe. It's 186 miles per second. What could possibly be faster than that? Thought. As soon as we think a thought, it exists. So when I catch myself at what am I thinking, Jane and I had a little moment this morning about what am I thinking? Am I saying it in here? Well, what, 100 and something thousand thoughts per day? Or am I thinking it with coming out of my mouth? How am I thinking it? So I have had a question in my life for 5 years. We don't know how long it's going to take when we put in the think tank and ask a question, how and when it's going to be answered. And sometimes we want it faster because we're human, right? My late husband passed from heart attack, but he had the last 6 months of his life in clarity. He was an alcoholic. And when I would take trips to be in Orange County where I used to live, I would house sit, cat sit, do jobs, photo jobs, and I'd be gone for a week or 2 or 3. And I knew when I was going, he would become his self and would enjoy as much as he could. I would come home and find things that were askew or broken or something, and I knew he'd binged. So I was away, and I was coming home in 2 days, and I knew he was binging. Because if I talked to him in the morning, I had a different person on the phone than if I talked in the evening. So I learned to listen to that. He went to the emergency ward via a cousin around the corner. And the cousin called me and said, I just put him in an ambulance. He's going to the ER. He thinks he's having a heart attack. And he had a central tremor. And she said he was tremoring so out of control she couldn't even hold on to him. So I intuitively knew it wasn't just the essential tremor. He was detoxing, but he was doing what do you call it when you take it all in one fell swoop? There's a word to that. I can't think of it. Anyway, sorry. Cold turkey. Thank you. A cold turkey moment. So because it was during COVID, I couldn't go to the hospital, but I was on the phone every day to the nurse or doctor, whoever would talk to me. And I kept asking. And what they did is he strapped him to a gurney across his chest, his wrist, across his hips, his ankles. They had him on a gurney for 2.5 weeks in the ER, in the hallway, because there were no beds. And I kept checking and asking questions, and they'd give me reports. But 2.5 weeks. And they never asked me or had me sign a paper that said, please detox him. They just said, we're putting him under a medical coma. That's the term they used. And so I was wondering all these 5 years, how did that work? How did they do that? Because when he came home, well, after the nursing care facility for a couple of weeks, he had clarity. He was the person that I really wanted to know and be with. And so the last 6 months of his life, it was the best. And it was such a beautiful gift, but there I was for 5 years. How did they know how to do that? And I never signed a paper. They never asked me. Long story short, last week, I'm at Honau now swimming. I came into the little baby beach to take my fins off, and I'm sitting in, 18 inches of water, and I'm chatting with a little boy who's playing with rocks, lava rocks on a surfboard, and his dad is there, and I start talking with mom, and we're chatting. Where are you guys from? And I keep giving them ideas of what to see while they're here. Long story short, she's an ER nurse. Where? In the hospital where my husband was. How many years did she work there? 10 years and counting. She told me, she gave me the answer. It's a protocol. When someone comes in, at least at that hospital, under the conditions, because they obviously check blood sugar and what all the vitals, they automatically, that's the protocol, they automatically detox. So I had the gift of my real husband for the last 6 months. And after 5 years wondering, the answer was brought to me in Honau now, in Hawaii, with a stranger I never met that worked at still works at the hospital where my husband was. We just don't know how things are going to be answered. So just my suggestion for all of us, myself included, just keep asking and knowing. Just know at some point when it's the right time, your questions are answered. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like an amazing coincidence. But real quick, time for one more really short one, which I'll do. This is a story of a man.
I'm sorry. I would rather chew on barbed wire than be up here. I left in September. I had a family emergency and I wanted to thank you all for your prayer list. I was on the prayer list. I was gone for 5 months. I had a family emergency. I wanted to thank everyone for all your prayers. When I left, I could feel it. And the emails that you all send the emails, and I just could really, really feel it. My granddaughter was hurt, and the end result is my daughter lost her husband, my grandchildren lost their dad, and I lost my son-in-law. And I just wanted to thank you all so very, very much. And thank God I'm back here now and I can heal. And that's what I need. That's what we all need. But I need it. And I'm just happy to be back. And I thank you all so very, very much. Thanks for letting me jump in there.
You're more than welcome, Ali. I would like to take the time to introduce our guest speaker today, Lynda Boozer. She's going to share with us what she learned about on the different paths to those spiritual pinnacles, which she has discovered over 7 years and six pilgrimages. You know what I mean. As a student of joy. She will also describe the 4 pinnacles of exuberance, womb space, and prosperity, and mudita. Is that how you say that, mudita? There's a couple of words there that I had to look up in the dictionary. And maybe she'll explain them to you. I thought they were really interesting. The first one was the womb space, which I had no idea what that meant. And apparently it's an ancient type of body work that deals with the solar plexus, and especially for women, the womb, that realigns things in the proper order. And I forget what the mudita means. We'll leave that up to Lynda to explain. And she shares her discoveries through writing, speaking, and her practice as an intuitive and transformative energy practitioner. And actually, interesting life. She started out as a physical therapist with a interest in subtle movement and energy, which I find that subject pretty fascinating. And then she just sort of added in international peacemaking and conflict resolution. She completed a doctorate in a program designed to bring spirituality into any workplace. Her work embraces body, mind, and spirit within the context of the larger world, and she actually has a home base in a small lake in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she spends 2 to 3 months a year here in South Carolina. We're blessed to have her here now. So please welcome Lynda.
Good morning again, everybody. Hold on, Jimmy, just a minute. I like to have a little something here. First of all, a little miracle for the day to add to the miracles and Jamie's contribution. So the lay, Tony was scheduled to be our facilitator this morning. And she, of course, had other things that needed her attention. And I'm just very touched that she's here as her flowers, as Jamie's creation. Thank you so much. Absolutely. So it truly is a joy to be at New Thought. Excuse me, can you hear me? Truly is a joy to be at New Thought. And I say that so sincerely. I really believe you guys here, come with your hearts open. The way the service is constructed, each of us participates in some way and connects, and then that joy gets potentiated. And I really think you guys here on the island are a PowerPoint for joy, for healing, for that love force that goes out far beyond this room. And I just want to acknowledge that. I think it's really valuable on the island. Okay, so I want to take just a moment. Joy is a word that's batted around a lot these days. We're kind of longing for it, quite honestly, a lot amidst all. And it's been commercialized. It's been many things. And I want to open with just a little bit of an explanation of my perspective on joy, and also a little bit of a caution, because I think joy out in the mainstream anyway can become sweetness and light a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with sweetness and light. But that said, joy to me is so much more than that. You know, I think if we are connected, if source is connected in our hearts and spread throughout, that ultimately whatever emotional state we're in can still be a state of joy. And I think that's so important in these times to just remember that. I first questioned joy, became a student of joy because of the Book of Joy, which is a book by Doug Abramson, who put together conversations between the Dalai Lama and Bishop Desmond Tutu. And the word that got lifted up for me in that book was compassion. And I had never thought of compassion and joy as side by side, even synonymous. And that sort of sent me on a look, because joy to me had been something out here, like what brought joy, not how I could be joy. And then what the power of that joy was. So that's where we're starting today, from that place. Where we're headed is to something I was not looking for. So this journey has been, as we said, since 2017. And there have been, oh golly, I think 6, 7 pilgrimages. I kept thinking I was on my last pilgrimage, and then another one would show up. I think I'm on my last pilgrimage now, finished, but I don't make any promises about that. But either way, where we're headed is to what I've come to call the pinnacles of joy, which comes, I think, and so some of the conversations about where do you feel joy, I think ultimately, for me anyway, joy is ultimately based in the heart. but then can spread throughout our entire bodies and begs the question, where in my body am I not yet present to joy? What shame, what lack of freedom, what congestion, what space within me has not yet been freed? And from that place, clear joy lives. And I think that takes us to these pinnacles of joy, which I'll talk about later, where we are our most possibility of love, of connection, of healing even, that power that we can, I think, in our best, fullest selves be. And that's what we're going to be talking about, and sort of something that landed in my doorstep. I want to back up just a moment and walk you through the pilgrimages that led to me this point, just briefly, to share kind of the building blocks of my journey of joy. Everyone has their own journey, but my journey, and hopefully some of that will be helpful for any of you. My first pilgrimage, was on the Camino de Santiago, going to the cathedral at Santiago. And it was at a time in my life when I called it, I fell in a hole. I had fallen in a hole. I didn't understand the hole, but I'd fallen in a hole, and my marriage had broken up. Our efforts to bring that marriage back together had just fallen flat on their face. And I was in that place, and I read the book of joy, and I thought, oh, wow, I want to get out of this hole, but I don't want to just get out of this hole. I want to get out of this hole and discover within my being what joy really is and how to hold on to it. Because I now believe joy is something that can be sustained, or at least if it falls away, we can call it back. And I think that's really possible and important. There was another thing that showed up that fall of 2017 that I don't talk about a lot when I talk about joy, but as we talk about living fully alive and clear joy and the pinnacles of joy, this story has become also to me important. And that is, it was Labor Day weekend of 2017. I was on the phone with a dear friend who I admire and love. We had traveled the world together doing peace work. She had spoken to hundreds of people at a time, confidently and with heart and care. And something had come into her life, and she shared with me that she was suicidal. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And she said it was her son that had saved her, because she wasn't willing to leave him. And still, it touched me so much. And it was Labor Day weekend, as I said, and was the 5th anniversary of an uncle's suicide, the same weekend. And then on my bedside table happened to be a fiction book that I picked up because I love the author. But it was a book about a 60-year-old woman who had made an effort to commit suicide. Well, in the realm of synchronicity, like you guys live and I live, I couldn't ignore these three things happening side by side. And it beckoned the question, Lynda, are you suicidal? I thought, no, I'm not. I thought, but I'm not living fully alive. And so that question also walked these caminos with me. What does it mean to be fully alive, and what's stopping me? So back to the pilgrimages. The first pilgrimage for me was to discover and to live. So in my heart, I became connected to joy. Joy to me became sacred connection. And anyone who walks the caminos will tell you it's the connections that they're most often most blown away by, whether it's to source, to creation, to people that you meet along the way, all of those connections, that sacred connection that lives within. The second Camino, this was way more big God, if you will, but simultaneously personal God connection. But I had to walk to the ocean because Mother had to be in this conversation. So the second Camino was right on the tails of the first, and it was a connection to creation, Mother Ocean, Mother Earth, all of it in my body to the volcano in the heart of this planet, all of that as very key in what is essential in joy, I think. The third Camino I call the Portuguese protection, and that was a Portuguese Camino. But that Camino was about protecting the joy. So my joy I had found, but I learned it needed to be protected, which was so different for me because joy I think of as expansive and out there. But what I was hearing the Chinese say, the stronger the pericardium, the heart muscle, the greater the joy. The greater the container, the stronger the container of the joy, the greater the joy. And so all those things you hear about boundaries actually increase our love force. Actually, our anger used appropriately can increase our love force. Our boundaries, our parameters, all those things increase that love force ultimately. That's a form of structure. Also in that Camino was the flower of life. Came upon a woman wearing the flower of life. If you know the flower of life, it's a central circle, whether that's source or source in you, with circles all around it, and more circles all around it, and more circles. I came to call that structure the highway of love. What it was is it solidified joy in me. By having that structure in my consciousness that was joy, something gets stronger in the possibility of joy because there's an image and it's strong and it's printed. The fourth Camino was actually after my mother died. And my mother died suddenly. I was walking the Camino. And what I learned, it was a privilege because I had all this time to just be with the loss of my mother. And I learned that grief is a key to growing joy. The more I grieve, the more I touch those deep places within myself, I could feel not only my love for my mother grow, but my love for everyone on the Camino. And I was like, whoa, grief is such a powerful thing. So fast forward to this past summer, I was going along thinking this was it. I was done with joy. I was out of the hole. I was staying out of the hole. I was in sustained joy, but something still wasn't right. And so I was kind of toying around with that. And I was thinking a lot about the patriarchy and how much power over lives in society, how much power over lived in my family, and just looking at the ways that I felt constricted and what might have been the base of that and what decisions, what mind things had I made or what body decisions I had made. And I began to think, I want to wrap this thing up. I want whatever's going on. There was still murkiness. My former husband and I were friends, but there was something not healthy about that. I was watching it, and I began to look at what was in my family that overlaid all that. And I decided to do a 1.7 mile pilgrimage. And on this pilgrimage, I walked from my childhood church, which was founded, my parents were founding members right as my mother was pregnant with me, to my childhood home, which my parents had purchased right as my mother was pregnant with me. That church, that home had lived in my life until I was 18 years old. We buried my mother in that church. So that was my world. And what I was interested in was what was there. And so that morning that I was going to go do this pilgrimage, I took a walk with my dog. I was going to be leaving town and leaving him. And I came upon something on the road that I knew was part of this pilgrimage. And it was a snake skin. But it was a snake skin like one I had never seen. There were two pieces. One looked like a pair of old-timey women's nylons, like the snake literally had rolled out of the skin. Like, I mean, it was a little donut. It was by far the vast majority of the snake skin, fragile as heck, gorgeous, and somehow that snake had come all the way out of that skin. And then there was this little fragment of snake skin on the side of the road. I picked up the donut, left the other, but both became important. I now think the message was that the rolled up snakeskin was all the past, pretty much wrapped up, complete, and lovely, which it is. And I went and I walked from the church to my house and back. The church was arguably in a death phase, as many churches are right now. All that I knew about this house I had grown up in was how upset my mother was because it had been kept in such bad repair after she and my father left it, had in fact been foreclosed on. So there was a lot of broken down in this old story. And so I walked, starting at the church, back to my home, and I get to my house, and there's a young woman out in the yard, and I think, let me go introduce myself. And so I did. And she said, indeed, the house had been foreclosed. She and her husband had it out of foreclosure. And, but now they were teachers. They had a young child. They were growing the house. And it felt just like healing, like this beautiful healing. I get back to the church and two things happened. I had written the minister who I thought was the minister. It turns out they had a brand new minister I didn't know about. So I was talking to the administrative assistants, and I had told them that I was coming to reconcile my current spirituality with how I was raised. And they wrote back, and she had written me back that morning, and she said, "Our new minister will welcome you to the church." I burst into tears. Some part of me, despite all, didn't believe I was welcome in that church, even after all these years. And many of you know from being raised in traditional churches that messaging kind of got around sometimes. And this notion of being a sinner, or this notion of never being good enough, all of those places were still bubbling inside of me. And I felt that day. But I walked into the church and I met the new minister. She could have been my sister. We had so much in common. I had on a pair of flip-flops, embarrassingly enough, in that church. She walked out in flip-flops. We start talking. We had so much in common. And she looked at me and she said something really sweet. She said, "The people in this church have lost so much. They need so much healing." And in that moment, I thought, that's it. Here's the home with this young family healing it. Here's this church with this woman who's so heart connected and so caring, healing it, and all is well there. There was still that little fragment of snakeskin left to do its task. And come fall, I had hurt my hip. I was in some crazy place in my head. And the way I say it, I read a book since I've been here, and the quote in the book is, "We have to swim in the abyss to fly with the hawks." We have to swim in the abyss to fly with the hawks. And I felt like, oh wow, this is me getting those dregs, getting those old stories, getting those places in my body that are still holding struggle, pain, diminishment, shame, fear, whatever. One was in my hip, in that place where when something comes at you that's frightening, we tighten up. And there was my hip, already diagnosed with arthritis. And I began to work those stories. And there's a spiritual practice that's mine. Some of you may share it. But every morning I will wake up, and during this time I would wake up and I would say, all right, God, is there anything this morning you want to reveal to me? Any story you want to share for me to release, to let go of? And over months, this started happening, where I would be given a story and I would lie in bed and I would reach to touch the grief of the story. And there it was. So what happened with that brings us to the pinnacles of joy, because there's the abyss and there's the freedom. And in that place is clear joy. In that place is what I call living fully alive, because every fiber of our being is alive for its wisdom, for its story, for its messages, because our wisdom is in our entire body. Our joy can be in our entire body. And that was when the pinnacles showed up. So I'm going to be a tiny bit political, but only in the form of, this is a we story that I'm about to share here, not a us and them, but a we. So I was still in this kind of angst place, and I was just a little crazed, and I said to my children, what do you guys want right now? What are you needing? Well, they wanted to go to the beach. I thought, we're going to the beach. So we went to the beach with my four-legged, beautiful red Labrador, 80-pounder, and off we go to the beach. And what's interesting about this weekend is this was the weekend of one of the No Kings marches. And I had chosen a beach that No Kings March was a blue event. I had chosen a beach that's well known in North Carolina to be a red area. And I love this beach. I love this beach. It's a great beach. And so Rusty and I were there, and I wanted to honor the march, but I knew I wasn't supposed to go to the march. I was just supposed to be something that supported the efforts. I woke up that morning and this voice in me said, Lynda, go be your exuberance. I thought, exuberance? Okay, where'd that word come from? Well, I'm a word nerd. And so sure enough, I looked up the word exuberance, maybe my new favorite word. So my old favorite word was enthusiasm, which to me is joy. Enthusiasm literally means in theos, God within, which to me is the definition of joy. But exuberance, let me tell you about exuberance. Exuberance means to be your abundance, to be full and put it out there. I thought, abundance, if everyone is their abundance, why would there be a need for greed? Why would we be in that wrestling match? Well, there's another cool part of the word exuberance. Uber in the word exuberance is actually the same as the word utter. So now we're talking about mother connection, breast milk, attachment, all those things that unite us, that thing that babies long for when they get here, to cross that bridge to really being here. That's built into the word exuberance. And I thought, you bet, we're going to go be our exuberance. Well, an 80-pound dog who loves balls in the ocean, that he was an instant shoe-in for exuberant. I too went as full of energy as I could possibly be. And here's what happened. On the beach and in this little community, I didn't know who anybody's anything was. I had more connecting conversations with people in that time frame than I ever could remember in my entire life. We weren't talking, and I didn't know their names. I didn't know anything about them, but the conversation went way farther than, hey, how are you? How's your day? I mean, we were talking about all kinds of things. And I was stunned by it. And exuberance continues like as that highest possibility of who we can be and what we can give to the world. That became my possibility, who I could be in the world. And I thought that was it, that we would have this possibility. Since I've been here, God decided to give me a little extra about this. And that is, I was walking along, actually in Hoboken on the beach. I take a walk and then I go into the ocean. And I was thinking about people I knew and all this notion of pinnacles of joy. And Spirit decided to give me 3 more. And so that maybe we each have one strong one of our possibility. But either way, the words, I think, are just beautiful. And one is indeed, where Stephen, womb space. So rather than this sort of breast connection, which we all have the possibility of, no matter our gender, but his womb space is holding. And in fact, one of the pilgrimages I forgot to mention was Hawaii, where I realized here, we are our strongest when we know we are held. That womb space, that place of containing each one of us, that thing that holds us, where not only are we strong within ourselves, but there's something else bigger holding us and keeping us. That's womb space. And I thought about the woman who's been my mentor all these years. I would say her greatest possibility is she is just masterful at holding womb space for me. Number 3, so exuberance, womb space. Number 3 was, I was told, I may not, it's like I just trust what comes through, prosperity. And prosperity was an interesting one to think about. It's like be well and prosper. And again, it's really more of a state of being. There's not necessarily that womb, placenta, umbilical cord connection, but that presence that just reaches out in its prosperity, in its goodness. Again, where's a need for greed when we are prosperous? And the 4th one is mudita. And mudita, translated as a Buddhist term, means joy in the joy of others. It's literally delight, like be delight. I delight in you. I delight in you. I delight in that story that you're sharing that gave you joy. And that's, again, another way to connect in possibility. So those 4 pinnacles for me become like my high bar, like who I want to be in the world and who my best self can be right now. And I think it's a possibility for all of us, no matter what that thing is that we're about doing, who can we be? And I think joy sits as a big root in that. Thank you all.
That was some amazing reminders, Lynda. Thank you. I love the part about exuberance, abundance, and prosperity, which now we come to time to pass the coal bowl. So it fits very nicely. The great poet Rumi says, whenever we manage to give love without expectations, calculations, negotiations, we are indeed in heaven. So. And could you guys play some little abundant background music?
Okay, we're here. So my question right back at you. If you are giving love with expectancy and all of those things that you just mentioned, is it love? Think about it. And then just remember and be grateful for where you are. Again, if you know the words, join in. Where I live, there are rainbows with life in the laughter of morning and starry night. flowers full of color, and birds filled with song. I can smile when it's raining and touch the warmth of the sun. I hear children laughing in this place that I love. Where I live, there are rainbows and flowers full of color, and birds filled with song. I can smile when it's raining and touch the warmth of the sun. I hear children laughing in this place that I love. Where I live, there are rainbows with life in the laughter of morning and starry nights.
Thank you. Thank you. Just about got everybody here. Coming up at New Thought Center of Hawaii. Yippee! Sunday service at 10. And for the next 2 Sundays, there's be on the 15th, Lauren Brownlee program and music, Message from the Soul, Understanding One's Spiritual Path for Wholeness and Healing. Then on 3/22, White Eagle Medicine Woman will be here for the spring equinox ceremony. Weekly classes on Monday from 4:30 to 5:30, Jin An Wong, Tai Chi and Qigong, all levels. $15 per class, 4 to 4:30. Long form coaching for advanced students, $10. Then we have Wellness Wednesday, 3:33 to 4:33 p.m. I'm not sure about what the picking 33 minutes is significant of, but in the Hanua room, healing meditations guided by Star Root with a suggested donation of $20. For monthly events, of course, we have the end of the month potluck, which you just missed. It was last Sunday. Next one's on March 29th. Crystal Bowl meditation on the second Sunday. Well, many of you attended that today. Next one is on April 12th. This is a free event with an optional donation to the New Thought Center in the Hanua room. Special events on Sunday, 3/22, Anna Jensel will be doing community drumming and sacred garden journey circle. That's from 2 to 4:30 p.m. in the Hanua room behind us. January, Sunday, 3/29, we're having a big book sale from 12 to 3 p.m. out here on the Lanai. This is a fundraiser for New Thought Center. There's many good, spiritually oriented, mostly used books for sale at the right price. The 29th. On Saturday, 4/11, there'll be a drum and rattle making workshop with White Eagle Medicine Woman. That'll be 9:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on the Lanai. That's $122 plus the cost of materials for the drum you make. That's an all-day event. And you can submit any prayer request you have to the prayer team, the prayer ministry. You can write it on a slip of paper and drop it in the wooden box, which is over here on the table next to us. You can join the prayer team if you sign up for a 4-week course in affirmative prayer taught by Arliss Dudley Cash. And the sign-up sheet for that is on the entry table. If you want to be on the mailing list, just sign the guest book to receive a weekly e-newsletter or sign up on the website. And I believe we're going to take and is there any other announcements? Here's one.
A few weeks ago, we had our new member meeting, and there were 2 people that weren't here. So would Jack Cohen and Eileen Richter come up? Come on down. Come on over. There you go.
I was looking at your paper.
Congratulations to both of you to officially be members of New Thought Center. We welcome you, of course. Love having you here. Thank you.
Very special place. Very special. Well, that's great to see. Welcome, welcome. Yes, we're going to take Lynda out to lunch at the Ohana restaurant right at the Corner Pocket, sorry. Okay, and are there how many people would like to join? Raise your hands. Well, just a couple of us for now. Thank you. Well, we're all, I think, going to stand up and sing Hawaii Aloha and join hands. Form a circle.
happens.
Right, Miss Candy. Love you. How it goes.
That happens.
You're working a lot? A little bit. 8th grade, you said.
Yeah, I just worked one day last week.
That's good.
Yeah, that was good. Hanging in